Hey, everybody. Today I want to talk about the March for Our Lives, which happens March 24th, and how I learned about it. I went down to my precinct caucus, and I won a trip to the county assembly as a delegate, and I won a trip to the congressional assembly as a delegate. And I've already made a video about this. I gave up on running for state delegate because I figure I can go down to the county assembly and sign up to be a delegate at large and still become a voting state delegate at the state assembly, even though I didn't press for it at my precinct caucus. Now, the caucus system is foreign to most people in most states, but it's part of the political process here in Colorado. In order to be a delegate to any assembly, you first must be a delegate in your county assembly. So let's say you got voted in as your state level state assembly delegate for your precinct, and you didn't go to the county assembly, your name would be stricken from the rolls. You are no longer allowed to be a delegate. Once you make it to the state assembly, you might get in there and find, oh, you invalidated the fact that you were voted in as a state delegate because you didn't go to the county assembly. It's part of the rules, right? So when I went to my precinct caucus and we were deciding who would be county delegates, and I'm the congressional delegate, and we sent a guy named Quan to be our state delegate representing our precinct. There were a couple of people who were eligible to fill spots in the county assembly as delegates that we had open. They didn't have to run. They didn't have to get voted in by the rest of the people in the precinct. All they had to do was say, yes, I will go. One of those people actually was a precinct committee person who handles most of the paperwork for our assembly, for our precinct in the 2 years in between most elections. She was the one who went to most of the meetings, and is supposed to walk door to door, knocking on people's doors, saying, "Hey, come out and vote." Right? Her name, I believe, was Karen, and she said the reason why she can't go to the county assembly this year is because it falls on the same day as the March for Life that's being organized. So instead of doing something where she's participating in the political process within the Democratic Party, she has eliminated herself from being able to be a delegate and make decisions like putting forth platform issues in the Democratic Party. She was also passing around a petition which specifically had on it, make, as a part of the Democratic Party's platform, a provision where people who are mentally ill can temporarily have their guns taken away by police, and they would have to petition to get their guns back. Right? And this would be a special law. Like there already is like a provision for this in terms of when somebody gets a restraining order on someone else. There is actually a box to check that you could have that happen to somebody if a judge so agreed, but it hardly ever happens. When you see the restraining orders, usually that box is left unchecked, and people are allowed to keep their guns. It takes a lot for a judge to decide that your Second Amendment rights should not be in place. But I was left wondering when I saw that she had something better to do. The person who presented us all with this petition that she wanted us to sign about restricting access to guns to mentally ill people, even if just temporarily. Um, I was taken aback because what happens when all of the people who care about gun control and want to see more gun control end up going to the March for Life or March for Our Lives, right, on the same day as the Democratic caucus in our state? Well, none of them will be representing our party, the Democratic Party, as delegates. None of them will be voting in favor of these issues that they would like to bring up to be part of the platform that we all agree to. They're basically, when you get to the point where you're a state delegate, you are given this list of things that the party should be or not be for. And in 2012 and 2014, I actually spoke about how in my state there were platform questions on the ballot for the Republican Party when I was a delegate for them that had to do with cannabis and legalization of cannabis. And that was the one issue where apparently the party organizers felt like, of course, Republicans are going to be against cannabis, and that was the one issue that, by and large, none of the delegates were in favor of restricting cannabis. That was one of those things that was not a shoe-in. There were a lot of libertarians in the Republican Party as delegates, and that libertarian argument of freedom to do with what you want with your own body, that was very convincing to them, and so that did not pass as a platform plank for the Republicans. So Republicans aren't held to that in this state as far as what they think their constituency wants, right? So what happens when everyone who thinks that they need to be part of this March for Our Lives does not show up to be a county assembly delegate? Well, the only people who end up being delegates will be the ones who thought that the county assembly was more important to attend than the March for Our Lives. So that issue for them, maybe it wasn't as important, right? It's definitely not as important enough to consider not being a delegate, right? So when you're wondering, when you hear that Democrats sometimes get big money from large corporations, and some of them have even accepted money from the NRA, and you're thinking, how the fuck does this happen? Well, those who really cared about the issue of guns, maybe they should, instead of showing up to large spectacles of, large crowds of people and being a part of that movement, maybe they should consider maybe staying in the trenches and doing the hard work of actually pushing the issues through in the manner in which the party has said, if you care about something, you need to make it a part of the platform in this way. Yeah, it's going to be a spectacle. And I love to film these spectacles and put it on this channel. But I'm going to go ahead and show up at that county assembly and film that for you guys. And instead of being one of the many YouTube channels that shows a bunch of people all in a crowded area, showing up together in exactly the way that a mass shooter might want them to be, by the way. Instead, I'm going to show up where it actually matters as far as policy is concerned, and do my part to make sure that the correct issues get supported by people, well, in the assembly. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me that people thought, no, I can't go to the county assembly because that's when the March for Lives is happening. It's, oh. Maybe tell your friends on Facebook, sorry I can't go, but I actually have to do something that actually might make a difference in whether or not we get gun control, and I don't want to leave my delegate spot to somebody who might take money from the NRA, to somebody who might not care about gun issues. I'm going to make sure that I'm a delegate that cares about gun control. You know. It's like people didn't watch Schoolhouse Rock and didn't figure out, like, there's a process and a procedure to all of this shit, And in order to become a bill on Capitol Hill, you gotta fucking start at the beginning and follow the whole fucking process. Not just, like, go have a party out on the Capitol steps and say, woohoo! We showed up and high-fived each other, and we showed that we have a whole bunch of numbers that care about this issue. If you don't do the hard work, the boring work, the less exciting work, none of that fucking matters. Right?